PK. How's it going?
Hey Robert, fantastic. It's been a great day. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Actually, it's kind of nice here in Ohio. It's been that way for a while.
All
So,
right. Yeah, so let's get started. We have a very interesting topic today on uh, how to use AI tools and workflow and drive enterprise efficiency. So it's going to be an interesting 45 minutes. So let's get started.
sure, sounds great. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to start off by doing a small introduction about myself, and then you can do yours, and then we can get started from there onwards. Yeah, and dive deeper into AI and automation.
Sounds great.
My name is a bit of a tongue twister. So I go by PK, P for Peter, K for Kingmaker. I work in different organizations on advisory positions, and I've also co-founded a few organizations as well, all AI. And that's it. Sometimes people call me PKR, P for Peter, K for Kingmaker, and R for Rainmaker. And I'll stop with that. And then over to you, Robert.
Sure. Sure. So, I am an integrated management systems team lead. I work for Contitech and I use AI, specifically Copilot, on a daily basis. But I've worked in manufacturing now for 15 years. 12 of those were directly within controlling, and the last two actually have been within quality. So, and that's actually where I utilize a lot of the Copilot, a lot of that integrated into our systems.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I'm going to start off some very interesting workflows. Maybe start off with some domain and then into workflows. One of the key challenge that is out there that needs to be explained is AI. And there is a lot of fear that AI is going to take people's job away. I just want to demystify that AI is just a technology or a tool. It's not going to take the job of anybody's job away. Having said that, those who use AI are going to take away the jobs of those who don't use AI. Not only their jobs and other opportunities, but they're going to take their lunch, dinner, and the next day breakfast, wipe the plate clean. And this is what the direction in which the industry is growing. So, what I, as a practitioner, as well as a professor, is try to make that whole process beneficial, ethical, moral, responsible, safe AI. So that's my. I'm an applied AI professor during weekends, but I'm a practitioner during weekdays. So I try to balance what is good for people rather than trying to just because powerful technology is available, use it in an unchained, unbounded, unhinged fashion. No, it has to be responsible, because it is exactly like computerization 30 years ago, when computers 30 40 years ago, when computers were become common. People had a fear, but then eventually human beings figured out a way to live, coexist with computers, and then the computers generated a lot of jobs as well. So, but the process will go through a bit of a challenge. So, with that, I want to pass the topic to you and want to take your opinion, and then we can go back and forth and dialogue.
Yeah, sounds good. And I tend to agree with that. People look at that. I actually had a conversation with one of my coworkers, and he said, AI is going to take your job. And like you, I agree that AI is a tool. I actually looked this up on AI, but 99% of data that's generated is never actually consumed, right?
Hmm.
By a person. So there's immense amounts of data that we have that are out there that we're not utilizing and that we would never, as humans, be able to use. Working, within quality, within finance and accounting, there's a lot of time, and I've done, some studies kind of looking at some of this, is that I think accountants use 80% of their time during the month to actually gather data, right? So what are they doing to provide value for the company? Similar to quality. If I spend all the time, if I have a customer complaint, and I'm spending half of my time tracking down the information, then I can't do like a root cause analysis, right? So a lot of my background is within manufacturing, and it's that, hey, we have people, let's have them doing the things that people can do, and then
Mhm.
have AI handle the tasks, like the repetitive tasks and the data gathering and some of the analysis that it can do better, so that we can do the things that we do better. A lot of times you're, taking that personal relationship where you're dealing with customers, right? You're talking to customers. It's that personal touch that you need. But the, machine data gathering that machines are talking, I don't want to put a process capability in place to where I have to manually mark this down, right? Or a
Absolutely.
million points of data, then it's not efficient for me to actually pull and analyze that data in Excel. So lots of, I think, as you said, a tool, not a replacement, right? Something to enhance the work that we're doing.
Absolutely. And I will also give you a couple of examples like the one that you outlined from capital markets. I did a lot of work the last 5 years in the capital markets, especially figuring out how to use AI to transform and deliver efficiencies to workflows. So if you look at, especially on a post-trade processing, quite a bit of workload right after a stock purchase, or whether it's a derivative, buying a derivative, forward contracts, all of that needs to be done. Post-processing needs to be done on that, and that is quite a bit of grunt work in terms of
Mhm.
trade capture, cleansing, validation, enrichment, and then settlement and clearing. And this process earlier as a lot of manual, but then when AI got in, and this manual essentially means it'll take 7 days, 3 days for your trade to get really settled. I mean, that's an whole lot of a painful process for somebody who does a trading to wait
Yeah,
for acknowledgement or get the paperwork done. So with AI, we can now we're able to crush that to T+3 to T+2 to T+1, the same day settlement. Just
right.
imagine if we look at AI as an enemy, you wouldn't have got there, because we love what we understand, because we got to understand what that technology is capable of, and use it in the most responsible, respectful fashion, and apply that selectively. um, and because of that, we are able to make huge amount of efficiency gains for the organization, save a lot of money, save a lot of
Mhm.
time, and save a lot of reduce a lot of constraints and inconsistency in the process. AI is like having several intelligent persons like us do the job along with us. And if you can make AI a friend and get the job done, why make enemy out of it?
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah, and I can give you several such examples for the audience as well. Um, Take for example in the space of healthcare, especially healthcare systems are huge, as a huge amount of disjointness within the space. Even for example, to take a test, whether it's a radiology related test, or say for example an MRI, a CT scan. I do serve on a couple of these healthcare company startups and other mid-sized companies on their board. One of the key challenges is basically how do you deal with disjoint systems, and how do you make sure that you can reduce the amount of time that a patient's waiting. If you see, if a patient wants to get a scan done, they have to wait for a week or 2 weeks to get the appointment done, because the scheduling of the referring physician first have you have to one has to contact the referring physician. The referring physician has to place an order um, in the front office. The front office has to wait for the modality. The modality has to wait for the availability of the technician. The technician again has to basically wait for the patient to arrive, wait, process pre-authorization checks, and then the actual test, and then it has to go to radiologists. Radiologists have to find time, and by the time, if you really look, a simple process of getting an, an health assessment done is complicated with so many broken systems not working and not talking to each other. Now AI is able to solve the problem.
Yeah.
not only deal with the regular data but also deal with the complex, say for example MRI or CT scans. These are several slices of 2D images put together in a 3D volumetric data, and one has to find an anomaly in that space while traveling through the data and find out a mole or a cyst or a lesion, and find out whether it is benign or benign, and elevate it and show it to the care provider, to the radiologist or to the oncologist. It's quite a bit of all that, and if you make the toll process manual, it's painful. Everybody makes money in that process, but at the cost of the patient. AI is now able to make that process much more easier, so you can get this same day report. You can also get the radiologist look at the images without having to travel to the physical location. They can now view it remotely using any device anytime. That's another example on healthcare, and I can keep going on and on about how it can deliver efficiencies and all that. But just to um, I'll take a pause, and then I'll wanted to hear your thoughts. What were your experiences, Robert?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the space that we work, there's CRMs. I'm sure people have heard of Salesforce, SAP as an ERP that sits out there. And what's important is, like you said, people have to be on the same platform, right?
Correct.
Uh, Gathering data and information is important, and that's one of the things that we're striving towards within my department, is to make sure we have a lot of plants. There's maybe some disconnection. Make sure that they're all feeding data in the same way, so that um, there's BA structures, right? There's management structures that sit on top of that, but it's not helpful to help those plants learn from each other if they're not seeing an analysis, right? Because maybe I have a defect and I put it in as one term, and the other plant puts it in as another term in a different language. You're not going to be able to tie those two together. So if you have programs that sit where AI is embedded into that program, right, it's doing the work to kind of compare these right back and forth and say, hey, is this problem the same here? Is this a systemic problem that you have within your manufacturing?
Hmm.
Or is this just a local, right?
Yes.
Or do I have these accounts? Say I have a supplier and I go back through and I've got this customer complaint here, this customer complaint here. If I feed the data the right way, then the AI is going to be able to link those together to say, hey, we know you have a supplier issue
Hmm.
with the larger problems that you have. And some of this technology out here includes the, Tableau or Power BI, where they're embedding that. And then you're able to open this up. And not only do you have this fed, then as long as I train my people, right? And that's the important part, PK, is that as we're rolling this out,
Hmm.
it's AI is only as good as the data that's fed into it,
That's
right?
correct.
So if I
That's
feed bad data, it's not going to come back the right way. So, and that's where maybe you were doing data entry or you were doing analysis. Now our roles have really shifted to training, right? And then that data spit back to us, and then we have it's a quality department. We have some case managers that might be able to go out and help these plants. But the key is to get them on those data platforms, so that if I'm doing an audit, maybe I've got an HR process and that audit shows up in 6 different plants and they all have the same problem. Well, if I don't have that linked, I have to go in and then I have to look at this, and you're never going to make the connection as a person.
correct. Correct.
So you're going to be able to come in, you're going to be able to pull that in, and that tool works for you then. And then you can be more intentional with your time, right? So a lot of, companies, the back office, the customers don't pay for that, right? That they want to pay for the products. Well, this reduces the amount of time. So hopefully you can expand your sales and keep the same amount of people, right? We're not going to lay people off. We're going to, expand. And if it's not us, somebody else is doing it. So
Correct.
that's really where you need to pull in, because if you're not on board, you're going to get left behind.
Correct. Um, and this reminds of this ancient wisdom of every day in Africa. There is a gazelle that wakes up and it must outrun the fastest lion, otherwise it will get eaten. And every day, the same day, the lion wakes up, it must outrun the slowest gazelle, otherwise it will go hungry and die, starve to death. So it doesn't matter whether it's a lion or a gazelle. When the sun rises up, you better start running. Um, it
Sure.
is that story has a tremendous amount of relevance. It is not just a jungle story. We are in a corporate jungle with LinkedIn's and the various other network. We still are hierarchical in nature, social translucents. We do micro contribute, and we have tons of data sitting in on even on our own laptops, many of which we have not even touched, except for the day that we created, maybe. You're right. You're so
True.
right.
Yeah.
80% of that data we might not have never touched.
Yeah.
But that's
The
power to
the
you.
amount of things I've done where nobody's ever looked at it as an
Yeah,
accountant. You're
30
absolutely right.
years. 30 years of of your life, and these assets have been sitting, moved from one old laptop to the new laptop to the new laptop, sitting on multiple disks. Data, like you said, is power. Data is a new oil, and AI is the oil rig. So
Mm,
AI, if you have the best quality AI, it helps you get to the best quality pattern in that data, and then gives you insightful information that you can take it, present it, articulate it, convince the customer, build products around it, build use cases around it, and make money out of it. We are truly an AI knowledge worker era that we have entered. Whether we like it or not, we've entered. The question is, if we love what we understand, so we have to understand. So part of the reason why I've been teaching for 2.5 decades, out of passion, while I was practicing. So weekends I do teach, weekdays I practice, because the world is full of doers who can't teach and teachers who can't do. I try to break that mold, because the teachers don't have the industry connects or experience, and the guys in the industry don't have patient. They don't have the patience to listen and answer questions and be accommodative. So I try to break that mold, and to the extent that is possible. And so that's a space that I think we are going to have. One opportunity is the education part of it, um, the learning transformation. So I have a tool called TechDemi, which helps in technical transformation in the AI era, so where you can learn things faster, much easier, effortlessly. um, that's first part. Second part is discovering the use case. Today there are two types of AI, Robert, I see. One, dollar consuming AI and dollar generating AI. The dollar consuming AI are time consuming AI, dollar consuming AI, and dollar generating AI, or time saving AI. Kind of a very similar flavor, but essentially two, but it comes in different flavors, sub flavors like chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, and so on and so forth. But predominantly it's two: the plain one and the exquisite ones. The dollar consuming AI is also the time consuming AI. You take chat GPTs, all these bots, and people are familiar with all that. It all consumes quite a bit of our time. We don't generate a dollar. In fact, you pay $5, $10 token money. No, you just keep paying tokens. People have made billions of dollars just out of token economics. No business has actually made money out of it. The harsh truth and the reality of it. Yes, it's AI. Yes, AI is powerful, but they can't do it. Why? Because most of the money exists in regulatory industries, regulatory spaces. Those regulated industries with regulatory compliances cannot use open open source on open LLMs to push their data through, because it violates
mhm.
that data confidentiality, data privacy, data sovereignty. And AI is also not sovereign, because you're basically training their AI with your data. And so there is a challenge. So that's a space that I solve as an applied AI practitioner, as an applied AI professor, is in terms of making sure the data is sovereign and have tools, and each customer is unique, each business is unique. Build a solution that custom to them without losing data sovereignty. data AI sovereignty, and none of the data should move outside the facility. And these are high tech. Is much more complex than an open LLM, large LLM, because these small language models also have a lot of complexity. So these high tech should not mean high cost. It should mean high quality at affordable prices. And that's the space that I operate. I deliver an American class solution at China price with a lot of global ingenuity. I bring in the best talents and get them to work together to make these high tech at affordable prices. Yeah. So that's part of the efficiency. That's how we are able to deliver. Hope that makes sense. Yeah.
It does. Yep. No, that's good. And I can understand how that goes, right? So a lot of times companies are out there looking for how they can customize things, right? And I feel that there's a lot of solutions that are out there
Hmm.
that are embedding the AI into their products.
Hmm.
Um, and it takes care of that issue, right? Where, hey, am I going to throw this out there? Data protection, since there's a lot of data now, right? We can probably see on a daily basis as some of this stuff leaks, social security numbers, things like that. So I would say embedded AI into software tools that companies are utilizing is really important to use to make sure that your data doesn't leak, right?
Correct, correct. We are in a social media world with we are already half naked.
Yeah,
Our data is all outside. If you look at Facebook or LinkedIn, any of them, we are the ones who putting our data out. It's not, we should not be blaming anybody else, but just the way that we have structured ourselves, um, that we put out a lot of data, whether it is um, tweeting or updating our profile, because we pretty much put our first name, last name, and it verifies everything.
yeah,
So our email IDs are also available, our faces are available. AI can now deepfake it. So there
yeah,
is a lot of ethical,
sure.
moral, and today the AI, these tools become so sophisticated. More than the use, the misuse is also growing. People are able to use voices and intersperse, and I've seen it also detect. I've used my technology to detect them as well, to find out within a stream of audio there are real audio and there are fake audio and then real audio and then there is
Yeah,
hybrid. So
right.
so
You see those
sophisticated.
ones where you come in, sure, where you have these things that sit there, and that's the using AI for bad, right? They have these
Yes.
videos that are out there that say, hey, can you wire this transfer payment? And I think that that's something that people are concerned with, right? With an AI, that somebody's going to use it for a malicious attempt.
Yes.
I think,
Uh, yes. Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think that embedded software kind of helps with that, right?
Yeah. And any of
But
those
we need to. So what do you do? Yeah,
yeah, and
sorry.
um, any of those hackers or malicious users are not going to target the strongest ones. They're not going to target Robert or PK or any of the folks who are already aware of it. They're going to go after the vulnerable population. And if, say, for example, if it can make a phone call to a grandma and tell her, "Grandma, send me. I'm stuck in the college. I need to pay for the dormitory. Please send me this to my PayPal account." To my, this
Right.
is my PayPal,
Yeah.
new PayPal account. The grandma is
Yeah.
going to feel, what are the, you understood where I'm coming from? If, because
Oh,
it's going to
absolutely.
speak, if
Yeah.
it's going to speak in the same language of a child,
Sure.
grandchild who was had got into a college, she's not going to for a moment hesitate and send the money out. Today sending money in
That's
this
not.
technology
I'm
is
not a
so easy.
prince anymore. Is it
uh,
right?
yeah,
They're smarter
yeah,
at these things. So
yeah.
so what do you think in medical technology, things like that? What do
Mhm.
you think are the biggest maybe bottlenecks or
Okay,
maybe resistance to using AI?
you touched you touched a bit of a sensitive a point. But anyway, I'll be as candid as possible. I'll always be diplomatic in my answers, but I'll also be candid, because part of the job is to unbox knowledge. That's my, as a professor, it's my also my duty. As a practitioner, I also have to be respectful of the confidentiality of my clients as well. Healthcare is very high on opportunity, but very low on innovation. Very low on innovation. There is a natural tendency to resist change. There's a natural tendency to resist change. Everything is stacked against innovation. A new idea comes in, it will find a lot of burial ground within the healthcare ecosystem. It'll get buried. So it requires very, it's a combination of technology and also an artful persuasion to be able to go layer after layer of resistance. It's like several modes, walls, more walls. Every department will offer a bunch of reason why they shouldn't do what you are proposing to do.
So do you think that that's just the regulation, or I mean, because like in where I'm working within the space that I'm working, it
Hmm.
seems that it's less that they're resistant. It's more that they just don't understand how it's going to work for them,
You
and
are
they
right.
don't use
You
it. So
you gave the question, you gave the answer as well. You gave the question, you
sure,
beautifully answered as well. Yes, we love what we understand. Because we don't understand it, there is a resistance. Why? Because, like Mark Twain once said, a cat that sat on an hot stove will never sit on an hot stove. That's fine. Will never sit on a cold stove either. Because the cat in its mind has figured out all stoves are hot.
right,
Okay. We, in our infinite wisdom of past experiences, we have figured out, oh, last time I did one project that failed, so this is also going to fail. Last time I
right,
did that, there was a little bit of a problem with the data access. This is also going to have a problem. Um, the key is to be able to have a bit more um, openness at the same time. Put them through a double rigor. The challenge is everybody understands that AI is a powerful tool, but how to tame it they have not figured it out.
mm,
Very few people. So for
yeah,
example, I help in terms of the monetization. This is all I've done last 3 years on the monetization successfully, customer after customer, is to be able to first do my educational part of that effort, conduct webinars, conduct in-person sessions, conduct Zoom sessions, help them bring them to a point of an elevated consciousness, and explaining honestly risks involved in it. AI projects also do carry risks. The simple reason is you cannot use any of the public domain information and then in a private setting. So you have to do quite a bit of breakthroughs. That breakthroughs usually take time, and time is money. So AI
yeah,
projects are not cheap, and the public
right,
ones, $5 token things, are not going to work.
no,
It's going to
yeah.
hallucinate. It's going to hallucinate. Imagine if I have to calculate the fee schedule management for a company.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah. I
my
mean, and I'm
calculation.
working. Sure, I'm working for Continental Group at this point. So we have thousands of employees. But what about somebody that maybe only has 50? Right? How
Correct.
do they properly scale so that that per person cost isn't as much? Where I'm lucky because we have the ability on several of the tools because of the economies of large scale that allow us to maybe utilize a tool like a Copilot,
Got
right?
it.
Because
Got it.
we're able to get that extra thing, which is helpful too, though, right? So utilizing a chat GPT, if you're allowed within your company, is very helpful on things like it's much better than a web search, right? If I'm
Correct.
doing research, if I'm doing this, it's going to give you a much better polished answer
Hmm.
with the sources behind it. So because I don't like to look at something and everybody's literally like, "Oh, I'm so afraid it's going to give me the wrong answers."
Hmm.
Well, generally it's going to tell you the source data that's there. So if you don't trust the answer necessarily, then at least you could take what the summary is and go back to that, right?
Correct.
So sometimes I use it, to do certain programming, things like that. If I'm working within a tool, on tools that are very much out there, right? So if I have to adjust something, it makes it much easier. But that's on a small scale, right? So if I'm
Yeah.
using it on
Small
my
scale.
daily
Yeah.
basis, but
Yeah.
like you said, if you're building software that is specific to a customer, then that's really helpful towards them, because then they don't have to worry about things getting out there. And I think that
Correct.
they miss that quite a bit.
Correct. And the challenge is taking it beyond the shiny object.
Mm,
We have to, in an organization, it has to work seamlessly as a workflow. The journey of that particular data, like you outlined, data is critical. Garbage in is garbage out. You need to be able to carry the journey, carry the data all the way through the workflow and make insightful, actionable um, steps out of the data. Like think of it like a river of data, and people can pick up data, whatever they need, and then they can use it for whichever whatever purposes. But you need to be able to have the data pipeline, and it also requires the infrastructure underneath to support it. For the AI, it has to have not AI as a salt and pepper that you drop on top of your applications or workflow systems,
so
but
so yeah, yeah, you're
AI.
talking about, so I know you deal with a lot of people. Can you give like a use case that says, okay, I started out here and I had all of this random data that needed to be connected. How did you work with them in order to make sure that, because we have this issue too, right?
Mhm.
Where I've got this fragmented data. How do you work with people, and then how do you continue to make sure that they're, using it in a way that the AI can digest it, so
Mhm.
that it's actually increasing their efficiency instead of them spending all this time maybe to get that done.
Correct. One of the very interesting questions. That's why I start off the conversation with dollar generating AI and dollar consuming AI.
Hmm.
I will switch this to the dollar generating AI. There is AI agents and agentic AI, two key capabilities that are out there in the market. Not many are putting it to use. There are using it in like salt and pepper, but they are not at core. So first of all, fundamentally, you need a GPU infrastructure as your AI backbone. uh, AI cannot be used as a seasoning tool to make your results look nice, or your search parts make it easier, but to be able to use it as a backbone on which data can flow. It's quite different from the regular way of thinking. Is to be able to have an infrastructure, AI infrastructure, which is GPU powered, not CPU powered. CPUs cannot handle this workload. A GPU powered infrastructure that can take the data and flow the data through that system. That way, anybody wants to have access to data at any time, it's available on a role based access control.
Hmm.
Okay, anybody can access. So think of it like a, instead of I would even say, think of it like a river in a loop. A river in a loop. So, or even better example would be, think of
Always
a
going.
data dining table. Exactly, it's like a dining
Sure.
table. If you look at some dining tables, you can sit around and then imagine the dish can rotate. If
Hmm.
you
Okay.
go to some Asian
Gotcha.
restaurants, hot pot,
Yeah, 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 where you can
yeah,
pick all your stuff.
you can
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
all
yeah.
this stuff.
Sure.
All you need is just
Yeah.
extend your arm and you get the dish. And then that
Right.
table itself, right in the center of the table, the data rotates. So that's what we have done to be able to have a AI core built-in
Yeah.
GPU infrastructure with the
Mhm.
data. We basically rotate the data. So anybody wants to have access to data, they can access the data anytime they want, on demand, and any device
And then in the structure they want it.
in the structure that they want. We have 14 AI patents to ring fence our technology capabilities as well. 14 cloud and GPU patents. So in terms of access to data securely,
Hmm.
SOC 2 compliance, HIPAA compliance, and making sure that the security audits, both security audits, penetration testing, um, the public, essentially it's a public private key infrastructure, and non-repudiation capability, so people don't say I do not access it. It's a clear audit trail of who accessed it, what data, what insights
Mm.
that they got.
Okay.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, which is important, especially when you're dealing with regulations, or,
yes,
we have, certain manufacturing things where version control is very important, right?
version controls.
So right, and traceability
Yes,
are
yes,
important portions. Sure.
yes.
So a question that I have, because as we walk through, and as I said, I've been in accounting for 10 years.
Okay.
I think if you ever browse through, or you're scrolling on LinkedIn, you can see the jokes about Excel and
Mm-hmm.
how it builds up, and people within finance, and I think even talking to colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
within my company, they don't tend to use it,
Mm-hmm.
but they would probably be one of the most departments that would benefit from it the most, right? Like
Absolutely.
I did two things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I entered invoices into SAP when I first started out as a cost accountant.
Mm-hmm.
Big repeatable task. Took me like a whole entire day to enter the freight invoices and the monthly journal entries, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Same monthly journal entry. I'm pulling the information. Now, we have, and what I find is resistance sometimes is that finance is one of those departments that's heavily understaffed, right?
Yes.
And the issue is that they would highly benefit from this because we're not going to add headcount. So you'd actually be able to do work that contributed value, but there's a point where there's a resistance that says, no, I can't institute like an RPA, right?
Yes.
Because I don't have the time in order to feed that the right way. But that's exactly what they need.
That's
So what kind of, yeah, what
exactly.
does that look like?
Okay.
Maybe in some of the industries you're in.
I'll explain that. Beautiful. So I'll explain
Sure.
that for the finance, the fintech process, and also the auditing process and accounting process, automation of that.
Sure.
Let's take the QuickBooks.
Hmm.
The integration with QuickBooks is a very, very important requirements today. You The process can start off by vendor sending an invoice. That
Certainly.
invoice sits in a mailbox. Let's look at the before and after. The before, you have to go download the invoice, you have to do a manually review it, and then you basically have to do a data, the person has to do a data entry of that. And
Oh
remember,
yeah. Been
eighty
there.
90% of all errors is input errors. Input
Yep.
validation, if it misses, it can cause a lot of pain on
Yep.
both sides, right?
Had that happen before, sure. Decimal point over one set, right? Ten
One
thousandths.
one
That's
mistake
right.
that can
Could
put
cost
a
you a hundred
lot of.
thousand dollars.
Yeah,
Sure. Certainly.
absolutely, absolutely. So
Absolutely.
the whole process now automated. What I've delivered using my technologies, complete mailbox. It will read the mailbox verbatim. Okay,
Hmm.
verbatim, MIME format, secure MIME format, and multiple attachments, no problem. Not
Sure.
single in multiple. Reads that, takes that, and populate. Does the input validation. You can even read and scribbled invoices. Okay, context based object COBRs. Okay,
Right.
based recognition, not OCRs, very advanced form. You can identify the context in which it is sent, and then it can also populate that into any other workflow system that you have, or put them into QuickBooks. Okay, so for a person, and then give a dashboard so that you can manage it from the dashboard. In fact,
Yeah. Sure.
um,
Makes sense.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the space that you are so correct. You're so accurate. The finance team is treated like a audit finance team are treated as a cost center, so they don't
Yes.
hire additional resources to support, and they handle quite a bit of this grunt work. If you see currently, there are three types of work: the donkey work, the lion work, the tiger work.
Sure.
They handle quite a bit of have to do that because the existing systems are, they are systems. It's not that they are, but these systems are disjoint. To move data
Yes.
from one system to another system, that's a human effort. That's
Yeah.
a lot of time. That is something that we solved over almost 2 years now in on automating the whole process. So the easier for anybody to work. It's that much more enjoyable because I removed this off using some of the Japanese concepts. Actually, they learned it from us during the JD Edwards era.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and then now we are learning, bringing it back, which is Muda Mura Mori, which is eliminating constraints, inconsistency, and waste.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Yes. Quality concepts. Yes.
quality
Totally.
concept. Yeah,
Totally
you
understand those.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah, you know that. Okay, okay, good, good.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So you do the
So
value stream mapping, flow, pull,
yeah.
perfection, and then make and
Exactly.
implement that with ease into the software. And AI agents is like I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I'm old, but when I look at these tools, when I'm able to use a LangChain, graph, lang graphs, N8Ns, and various no code, low code, full code, Pythonic implementations. And of course, add throw in a cursor IDE to it. I like feel like a kid sitting there and solving Lego, using Lego to build
Yes,
problems.
yes, no,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So, so if you had one thing, and kind of, as we wrap up this call, if you could say, I don't know, one thing to somebody that maybe is on the fence,
hmm
um, based on what they had, to maybe, push them to integrating this into their company, what would that be?
This is what I would say. AI driven automation can help them unlock from as minimum as $300,000 to $3 million
Wow.
for a small to medium sized organization. Imagine what it could do to a large organization. You say
Yeah,
thousand member headcount organization. You can unlock a huge amount of savings.
sure.
And for any organization, the serious money left on the table. We're, we're leaving that money for inefficiency, right? And just one AI driven strategy and the appropriate use. The key is the use case and the necessary team that understands to do things at a lower cost. You can do anything with very high cost, but the objective is to give them IRR, break even, and ROI. It has to
Yeah.
be, the input cost has to be low. So that is a space that I would highly recommend. They can get in touch with me, PK at
Mhm.
businessoptima.com.
Sure.
That's PK at businessoptima.com. And I help in terms of first fix, educate. That's the first part. Then the process, streamline the process, second part, and then the implementation part. All within 6 weeks of time frame.
It's
Okay,
pretty quick.
yeah, pretty quick. And then the rest of the rollout takes maybe take another 4 to 6 weeks. So uh, AI implementation, usually the regular implementation takes 6 months. I get it done in 3 months. So that's my if I have to pitch, and that would be my pitch. um, crush time. And
Yeah.
to last point that you mentioned, this is not now no more a it is a necessity. It's no more a option. AI has to be adopted, not just because left behind. I will give an example of the grass and the tree. When a tree starts off, the tree and the grass look same,
Mm.
but
Mm-hmm.
give it some time, you know what happens to the tree and what happens to the grass.
Sure.
It's very, AI is a tree, it's going to grow, it's going to be the sequoia, okay, it's going to be the oak, it's going to grow, it's a cypress tree, it's going to grow faster and bigger. It's the importance is to be able to have growth experience. If you avoid it, we'll become grass. And you know what happens when an animal comes around? What gets eaten? Not the
Yes.
tree, but the
That's right.
grass. But
Yeah.
the grass.
No, that reminds me of like a blockbuster, right? That
Yes.
had the opportunity to buy, was it Netflix, I believe?
Yes.
And they said it was a horrible idea, right?
Yes. Yes.
Very, very, very backwards thinking, not a lot of innovation. And we all know what happened to Blockbuster, and
Blockbuster.
Netflix is flourishing.
Flourishing.
Right? Not only do they have streaming, they're actually producing, their own things. I see AI is the same way. As if I, as a company, doesn't matter what space I'm in, right? Like, we make rubber products.
hmm
So if we're behind our competitors
hmm
in putting this in, I feel that leaves a lot off the table, and you become less profitable, and you shrink, and
Shrink.
eventually you don't become a player.
Yes.
So
Investments ultimately
totally
come
agree with you.
to, yeah, absolutely. Investments ultimately come to those who give great returns. Those who give great returns.
Absolutely.
So it's important to remove inefficiencies and make become more efficient. And beautiful example that you gave about Netflix, and also yellow caps. Yellow caps
Mm,
thought they would be untouched. Imagine what
right.
Uber did to them. It's important to use technology, but you have to be important to use it very responsibly and make a lot of money. Again, minimum experience that I've
Absolutely.
had is three hundred
Sure.
thousand dollars, $3 million worth of savings. There's just money left on the table for without using AI.
Yep. Excellent.
And such a pleasure, Robert, talking to you. And it's
Yes.
glad to have this
Thanks,
conversation.
PK. That was
Really
great.
appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
All right. Sounds
Thank you.
great. All right.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Have a great day.
Have a
Thanks.
good day. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.